Michael Patrick Shields is on the air.
Good morning, world.
Good morning, Michigan. A very pleasant Friday to you. It's Michael Patrick Shields, heard all across the state of Michigan. Gary Austin is our anchorman, and there is a big stack of news to get to this morning before we start talking to guests. Coming up shortly, Ken Dallafor, who played for 3 teams in the NFL, will give us our prediction for the wild card games this weekend. But first up, Mr. Austin, how about this story out of Romulus, Michigan, where the Detroit Metro Airport is? A Nigerian woman, who authorities are saying she swallowed 91 packages of heroin to smuggle into the United States, agreed to detention on Wednesday. She's 32 years old. She's charged with possessing narcotics with the intent of distributing them illegally, importing heroin, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office. And she'll have a preliminary exam on January 28th. She's about 5'2", and she was arrested Sunday at Metro Airport after admitting to swallowing what turned out to be 2.5 pounds of heroin in small packages. Now, she came in on a Lufthansa Airlines flight from Frankfurt, Germany, and after she got off the plane, she was designated for what they're calling additional inspection. And while she was being interviewed, she admitted to swallowing, I don't know why she admitted it, an unknown amount of narcotics. And she told officers she didn't know how much she swallowed or what kind of drugs they were. So she was taken to the medical facility where the staff, here's the, you ready for this?
Oh, man.
Supervised her expulsion of 91 packets of heroin with a street value of $125,000.
It's extraordinary, 91 packets.
To equal about 2.5 pounds.
I can't imagine.
How'd you like to be there to supervise her expulsion?
Well, I tell you, some, they go to lengths to try to hide this stuff. Maybe she was getting sick and she had no choice but to say, hey,
you got to let me go to the bathroom, please.
I'm not feeling very good. My God. So was it the deal where she had the stuff on her and then she was afraid that she was going to be cornered and maybe caught, so she figured, I could do something with this stuff, so she just started eating it?
She had the stuff in her. I don't know. It sounds like me. She's what they call a mule, where they load you up and send you across the border.
A mule? Is that what it's called?
That's what it's called.
So she, in other words, with the intent, she ate this, and then when she was going to presumably back in wherever she wanted to go, away from authorities and what have you, back into this country, then she gets rid of the stuff.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So she was either going to give it to someone or sell it herself, I guess. But can you imagine riding all the way from Frankfurt, Germany on a flight with 91 packets in your stomach, just waiting to, what is the word, the expulsion of them. Somebody supervise the expulsion.
I can't imagine. What if, say, one of the packets, if it's in your system, if it, breaks loose somehow?
Woo!
Then what?
You'd have a big old high, I would think.
Oh, man,
and then die of an overdose.
Yeah, you'd think. Boy, that's really extraordinary.
Well, everybody likes to talk about the health care reform legislation and possibly repealing it. The Republicans like that idea. And according to statistics with Politico, if they repeal the health care reform legislation, it's going to add $230 billion to the federal deficit. If they keep it in place, it's going to save more than $143 billion from the deficit. Those are the hard numbers as we're getting them here this morning, because by next Wednesday we'll probably have a vote in the House of Representatives on repealing the health care law.
Yeah, and I bet you, Michael Patrick, between now and then, too, we'll have a dozen other surveys and stats and numbers coming out showing all sorts of things. I mean, this is really a contentious issue, and it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. We have, the Republicans making it clear when it comes to spending money. We're over the top, and that whole Constitution thing came off yesterday. That was curious to watch, wasn't it?
Yeah, I didn't think John Boehner was a very good reader, did you?
I heard some audio. I don't know. I think they all sounded fine.
He sounded a little, I would thought might be read with a little more, drama. He kind of stumbled through it.
Well, I think the document, though, when you really think, you look at the document itself, it's not written in today's verbiage. So you kind of have to keep that in context, I think. You know what I mean? It was written. It was written, way back when. So the context, as you read it, it doesn't have the flow as something we would pick up and read today.
Mardi Gras season has started in New Orleans, even though it's a late Easter this year. And Pierce Morgan, the guy who's taking over for Larry King, has got his first guest on the new CNN talk show, and it's going to be the great Oprah Winfrey. So he's going to start out with, with a pretty impressive guest. We're looking at some snow in West Michigan, huh?
Yeah, and then some. Yeah, we've got some blizzard advisories up. We have some lake effect warnings out, so be on the lookout. Hey, we see Rich Rodriguez is talking for the first time since his...
Well, what's he got to say?
Well, he's making his first comments after he was let go this week. In a statement released, he thanked fans and students for their support and said he was proud of the dedication and commitment his coaching staff and football players have exhibited in the last 3 seasons. He said while he was disappointed to leave the school before reaching the level of success he and his staff had in their sights, Rodriguez says he's confident the players will remain with the team and they have potential to return the Wolverines to greatness.
Pretty good party line there.
Yeah.
Doesn't want to screw up his buyout, right?
Yeah, he says, players who remain with the team have the potential to return the Wolverines to the greatness that they had before.
So we're talking about the possibility of 12 inches of snow. Barry County, Kent County, Muskegon, Newaygo, and Oceana under a lake effect snow warning through 1 a.m. Saturday. As much as a foot of snow could hit those counties, and as many as 7 inches could fall north and east of those counties, all the way over to Jackson and the state capital of Lansing, and the snow could fall at a rate of more than an inch per hour. So that's a good old-fashioned blizzard, isn't it?
Boy, it sure is. I tell you what, we're in the season. Hey, I see where the state police are hiring again.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, it sure is. 3 years or thereabouts. We've had the budget situation being what it is, and as a result, nothing was done. Now we have the State Police Academy kicking off its first trooper recruit school in 3 years.
It's a federal grant, where they got the money, huh?
Yeah, state budget cuts prevented this from happening, both in 2009 and last year. But money on hand, we're going to do it. Yeah, the money to pay for the training, yes, comes from that federal grant. And the new recruits will graduate in May.
Money comes in and money goes out now because the Defense Department scrapping plans for a $14 billion amphibious vehicle program. One of those vehicles that can go on land and in the water.
Yeah.
They were going to make it in Detroit, and I guess they're not going to do that now.
Yeah, it's kind of a tough deal for us here. It meant jobs, but now the jobs, well, we can say so long to those. That, according to a report in the Detroit News, about 30 jobs will be scrapped by the canceling. This is a program arranged for by General Dynamics, and in fact, not just Michigan is affected by this. Quite a few jobs all over the country will be affected as well. Now, had the vehicles been ordered, 573 would have been built in Lima, Ohio. And we have Defense Secretary Gates saying the Pentagon is working to trim its budget, resulting in the program being dropped. And that's a story, Michael Patrick, that I think has been kind of under the radar with all the other stuff going on in Washington, with all the the issues involving healthcare debate and situation with the reading of the Constitution and all. Big cuts that are being proposed when it comes to Pentagon spending, and I think, I guess everybody's got to tighten their belt a bit, and
I think
the Pentagon and military, no exception.
I think that's Lima, Ohio, isn't it?
What did I say?
Lima. You said
I don't know.
Like
I think
Jose Lima. I think it's Lima.
I'll say Lima.
I could be wrong.
Lima, Ohio, or Lima, Ohio.
I think it's Lima.
I say it's Lima.
All right, let's ask the listeners.
I say it's Lima.
Let's call the whole thing off. 888-900-9966. Who's right? Me, Lima, Ohio, or Gary Austin, Lima, Ohio?
All right. Vote for me.
888-900-9966. One of the most vile stories I've heard in a long time is a 17-year-old in Detroit is going to spend between 30 and 60 years in prison. He raped a 90-year-old woman.
Yeah, this is one of these stories you just like to
home invasion.
Avoid,
and,
yeah.
And there was an accomplice, 18-year-old, who helped out somehow, and so he's going to get also 20 years in prison. Too.
Lengthy stays in jail for both of those.
Aretha Franklin says she's doing well.
Yeah, apparently she's out of the hospital, and she says her health problem, quote, has been resolved. So
she's not giving any details about her condition other than that. I don't know what that means, but maybe it has. I guess we got to You've got to take the Queen of Soul at her word.
Yep.
Maura Corrigan has, in fact, been appointed by Governor Rick Snyder to head the state's Department of Human Resources. So she leaves the Supreme Court of Michigan. She's been there since 1998. That opens up a position on the court there. And a 21-year-old man wanted in connection with a November shooting in Muskegon is behind bars in California waiting extradition back to Michigan. And there's somebody, Gary, in Grand Haven posing as a police officer and making prank calls. There was a Kentwood woman and a Grand Haven man. Both received calls from someone claiming to be with the Grand Haven Public Safety, and then he began insulting them.
Oh,
And
my gosh.
the department's number showed up on the caller ID. They're not sure where in the building it originated from, but somebody's spoofing people and right there in the security building there.
Hey, you know what? Perhaps our Lima controversy may soon be solved. I see Frank is calling in from Lansing. Perhaps he has the answer.
It's a cliffhanger. You'll
It
get
is.
the results
Yes.
in 4 minutes. It's Michael Patrick Shields, Gary Austin, too. Okay, Gary Austin,
All right.
you ready for the answer? This
I
Frank
can't
is
wait.
ringing in from Lansing. He will be our answer man this morning. What happened is we were talking about a story about the Defense Department scrapping plans for a $14 billion amphibious vehicle program. That would mean lost jobs in Michigan through General Dynamics, and they were going to build the vehicle, 573 of them, in fact, in what Gary says is Lima, Ohio, which I took issue with, and I said was Lima, Ohio, and we asked for somebody who knows the answer definitively to ring in, and Frank apparently has done that at 888-900-9966. Good morning, Frank.
Hey, good morning, guys. How are you?
All
Well,
right, Frank.
we're on the edge of our seats trying to find out if the answer man is right or
Yeah.
if Gary Austin is the news anchor is wrong.
All right, Frank. What is it?
Well, Michael Patrick Shields is right. It is Lima, Ohio.
No,
There
Frank,
you
you're
go.
wrong. It's Lima,
See?
Ohio. I knew he was wrong.
No,
Who is this
Yeah,
Frank
you know,
character anyway?
30 years ago, I was doing exactly what I'm doing now, which
Yeah.
is listening to the radio and praying for school cancellation.
And so therefore somehow you heard a long time ago that it's Lima, not Lima.
That's right. I grew up listening to 50,000-watt voice of Whoa Whoa Radio in Northeast Indiana. And yeah, we'd hear those kids from Lima. They always got out of school, and we had to get up and do the chores and go to school anyway.
Well, at first I questioned Frank's accuracy,
never
but based
should.
on that, Frank, I stand
You
corrected.
shouldn't
Well,
question.
that's right. I learned it on the radio, and we all know the radio is never wrong.
Yeah, and the
In every
answer
case
man is
but
never
one.
wrong.
Right.
Thank you very much, Frank. We appreciate that good humor this morning and for straightening out that Anchorman loses to Answer Man as usual.
Yeah, you bet. You guys have a good morning.
Thanks. Thanks for calling, Frank.
You see that?
Frank from Lansing, a good sport. Thanks
I'll
for
bet you a
calling,
lot
sir.
of kids are a little ticked that this snowstorm that's coming to West Michigan is going to happen, through the day and into the weekend because they're going to get robbed out of a snow day.
Ooh, bad
Don't you
timing.
think? Yeah, because a foot of snow is going to fall in Berry, Kent, Muskegon, Newaygo, and Oceana counties, and they're under a lake effect snow warning, and it's going to fall fast.
Yeah.
And I bet you they would have had a nice snow day if it hadn't been for the timing.
Yes.
Rats.
You know, I have been reading your book. Invite yourself to the party.
Thank
and
you.
I see Ken Dallafor. He's about to join us here, and
Yes.
he's a contributor to your book. You guys,
He came up with the title.
yeah, true. And I like, the portion of the book where at your wedding, he gave you 2 bottles of wine,
Yeah.
a real expensive one, and a bottle not so expensive.
Yes.
I think that's a great contrast.
He
Great
gave
idea.
he gave us a bottle of Opus One, which is about $180.
Yeah.
And then he gave us a bottle of Boone's Farm, which is about $2.
Yeah.
And it's it's an apple wine or something like that.
So one for the good times and one for the not so good times.
Yeah, and he went so even further because it was Blue Hawaii, I think is what and it looks like blue, aquamarine blue wine, and our honeymoon was in Hawaii, so he went even further. But he said there'll be good times and there'll be bad times.
Yes.
And be ready for both of them.
Another thing that Ken pointed out in your book, I like his philosophy, the win philosophy, focusing on what's important now. He says he uses it in his business, and he says it's a good idea for others too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a simple philosophy, but when you think about it, as you tailor your day, as you go about your business, focus on win, what's important now. Make that top of mind. Good advice.
Yeah, he's the one that told me about trick-or-treating at the right houses because...
So putting together a spreadsheet and year to year.
Yeah, he's on the line right now. He
Yeah.
is, as you know, played for 3 NFL teams, the Lions, the Steelers, and the Chargers, and he's a senior vice president of group sales and corporate marketing at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. And we should let him tell the trick-or-treat story, Gary, right from the horse's
Yes,
mouth,
Ken.
if you will.
Please do.
Good morning, O sage, wise one.
Well, good morning, and you're making it sound brilliant, but it's really basic and practical if you think about it. So, but yeah, as a kid, you wanted to make the most, and as an adult, with your time, you want to prioritize and make the most and get your best return because time is something we can't replace, and we have to use it appropriately. So,
very good.
Yeah, good stuff, and the wedding of Michael Patrick and Dr. Christine was wonderful, and 2 great people, and the book's wonderful, Michael. Lots of good information in there. We continue to reflect on it at our house. Karen and I both read in it and enjoyed it very much.
Well, thank you.
Ken, yeah,
very much.
and thanks to MPS putting it in print. Ken, your advice on that win. What's important now? And I know there are people listening right now will remember that as they go about their business, focusing on the important stuff first.
You know, what he did is, like, when I grew up in downriver in Wyandotte, we would just go house to house to house to house to house as long as we could on Halloween. Ken Delafour wrote down the houses that had the good candy. And so the next year, he skipped all the other ones. He went to the ones that had the good candy, and then he expanded his route after that for next year. So, I mean, I don't know.
Proved out year after year, too, Michael.
Yeah, and I don't know how many kids would have gone to that kind of length, but it surely says something about your entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah, and I will say this: I bet you Ken could have made a few dollars on selling that list. I bet you. Right?
Now that's the modern age. If he'd have
Yes.
posted it on the internet, they didn't have the internet back then. He could have done it all over the world.
Sort of a pay-per-view internet thing.
Oh, that's pretty good.
What it probably really says is that I loved candy, and I would go to great lengths to get the ones I wanted.
That's great.
I will be speaking next Tuesday night if you happen to be in the Lansing area at Dublin Square at 7 o'clock. It's the Irish Mid-Michigan Club, and they're going to have their annual meeting. But anyone's welcome. There's no charge or anything like that. And we're going to talk about the book, Invite Yourself to the Party, and talk about Ireland, and just have a good old time. That's at Dublin Square, right there in the heart of East Lansing on Abbott Road. It's at 7 o'clock Tuesday night. And if you can't make it to that, just go to inviteyourselftotheparty.com. And you can order online, or you can find out the locations. You know, we have it at Dusty's Cellar. We have it at Schuler's Books in Eastwood. And right next door here to our downtown studio, the Gillespie Group studio, there's a coffee house, the Great Lakes Chocolate and Coffee Company. And the book is on sale there. And if you happen to buy it in the morning when we're on the air, I'll be happy to sign it for you. That's the deal. It's Invite Yourself to the Party at inviteyourselftotheparty.com. You can order it online and anything you like. And Gary, I have a friend, Kerry Campbell, who runs Walnut Hills, and he has been taking pictures of the book throughout his travels. And one of the places he went was to Jack Nicklaus's office in Palm Beach, Florida.
Oh, that's great.
So he took a picture of the book sitting on Jack Nicklaus's desk. Isn't that wild?
Now that's terrific.
And those are posted at inviteyourselftotheparty.com.
That's very thoughtful.
You know, Jack Nicklaus is in the book a number of times. I don't want to spoil the stories, but let's just say Jack Nicklaus and coincidentally Boone's Farm wine are in the same story. So there you have it. Now, Gary, are you betting on the wild card games this weekend?
You know, I don't know. I don't know which way to go. I need an expert. I need someone who's an insider, someone who can give me a sense of direction here. Who could that be?
Ken Delafour.
Ah, perfect, Ken.
Drafted by the Steelers, played for the Chart. He blocked for Barry Sanders. He blocked for Dan Fouts, and he blocked for Terry Bradshaw.
Those credentials are good enough for me. All right, Ken, who do we pick?
New Orleans Saints at 11-5. The defending Super Bowl champions are going to Seattle to play a team that doesn't even have a winning record with a brand new coach at 7-9. The Saints are favored by 11. What say you, Ken Delafour?
How could you not take the Saints in this situation? I would take the Saints, but it wouldn't surprise me if the Seahawks did something miraculous and the Saints stumble, but I would take the Saints.
New Orleans beat the Saints 34-19 in Week 11, and but that was down in New Orleans, so we'll see. Okay, so you're going Saints. We're going to circle that then. Now, the New York Jets at 11-5 are going to Indianapolis to play the Colts At 10-6, the Colts are favored by 3.
Now, Michael, in years past when we've done this, you pick one, I pick one, and then we compare our record. Would you like to continue that, or I could make my selections and get the first pick on this?
Oh, I'll take the Jets in an upset.
Oh, perfect. I was going to take the Colts. You picked exactly correct the way.
All righty. Now, that's good. So, and then in the first game, I can't pick the Seahawks, so I have to go with you there also on the Saints.
Okay.
Unless I have to take. Do I have to take Seattle if you have the other team?
No, I don't think so. We can just compare
right,
records and see how it ends up.
Those are the Saturday games, and they're staggered to be late. So the first game, the Seattle game, is at 4:30, and then you get the night game with the Colts and the Jets. Now, on Sunday, it's different. They play at the more traditional time. The Ravens are going to go to Kansas City. That's Jim Nance's game on CBS. And the Ravens are favored by 3. That's a 1 o'clock start.
Correct, and I would take the Ravens. I think defense wins championships, and with Lewis and that gang going into Arrowhead, I'll take the Ravens.
They're a tough team, and Harbaugh as coach. The Chiefs, wow, they're on a 6-game losing streak, 6-game playoff losing streak. I think they're gonna. I think they may rally. I'll take the Chiefs just for fun. They're playing at
homers. Okay.
Yeah, they're playing at home
like
too.
That.
Now, in the 4:30 game Sunday, the Green Bay Packers are going to the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are favored by 3, and Michael Vick's been pretty busted up after all that running and hitting and smashing he's been doing. That's the Joe Buck Troy Aikman game with Pam Oliver on the sidelines. And I get to pick first this time?
Sure. Yep.
Ooh, that's a tough one, isn't it? Both teams are 10-6. Then I think in this situation in the NFL, when you have such a close matchup, you go with the home team. So I'll take the Eagles.
That would be the wisdom, but I'm taking the Packers. I think Aaron Rodgers. I think the Eagles are ripe to be beaten. So I got the Packers in that one, Michael.
Okay, these are really, really good wild card games, aren't they?
They really are. It's going to be an interesting weekend, and this is NFL is exciting every weekend. This is when it really gets interesting. So.
All right, we will we'll look at the results on Monday and enjoy the games between now and then. And thanks a bunch to Ken Delafor. We'll talk to you soon.
Yes, and good luck at your event Tuesday night, Michael.
Tuesday
People
night.
that come will be enriched, I promise.
Hopefully they'll be amused at least, and we'll make sure they have a pint or a bit of Jameson to make sure they're even more amused, because that's when I do my best work, right? 34 minutes after the hour. He's Ken Delafor. Let me get you some more sports here. The PGA Tour is back in action. The opening round of the Hyundai Tournament of Champions, and Jonathan Bird and Carl Pedersen both fired 7 under 66s. They share the lead there on Maui, and Ben Crane is 1 shot off the lead with a 67. Then you got Jim Furyk, Bill Haas, Charlie Hoffman. They all shot 68. And Jeff Ogilvy withdrew because he cut his finger in the ocean earlier this week, and he was unable to play because of the injury. Tiger Woods' video game this year is going to include the option of playing Augusta National. It's Tiger Woods PGA Tour 12. I also understand Tiger won't even be on the cover. And he's also lost his Golf Digest endorsement. They've parted ways, too, as the collapse of Tiger Woods becomes more and more evident. He didn't win a single tournament last year. It's 35 after the hour. Michael Patrick Shields. Hey, let me get you the rest of the sports here, too, after we covered the NFL wildcard games. Reports now the University of Michigan, they're looking at Stanford's Jim Harbaugh as a new coach, San Diego State's Brady Hoke, LSU's Les Miles, TCU's Gary Patterson, Utah's Kyle Whittingham, and Boise State's Chris Peterson could all be in the mix. And supposedly the University of Michigan is willing to offer $5 million a year for someone who would coach the team. And I just heard yesterday that the Miami Dolphins offered $40 million to Jim Harbaugh over 5 years, and he turned him down. That's what I heard yesterday. And I don't know if that's gossip or confirmed, but that's a lot of money and a high-profile job and a pretty nice place to live. And Jim Harbaugh has said thank you, no thank you, as I understand it. Red Wings had the night off. The season will continue for Detroit on Friday night in Calgary. The Pistons off as well. They'll get back on the hardwood Saturday night when the 76ers come to the Palace, and there's talk that the Pistons could be sold by next week. The Ilitch family had an exclusive bargaining agreement for a while. That's expired. The Ilitches lowered their bid, and now no potential bidders have emerged other than Tom Gores. Now, he is a billionaire financier from Beverly Hills, California, but he grew up in Flint. He attended Michigan State, and he remains the leading bidder for the team and Palace Sports and Entertainment, and presumed to be the bidder who will emerge as the owner maybe as early as next week. The GoDaddy.com Bowl was yesterday in Alabama, and Miami of Ohio won that game. Congratulations to them. They have Michigan State's former offensive coordinator as their head coach starting next year, don't they? The Cotton Bowl is tonight. Texas A&M versus Les Miles and LSU. So maybe Les Miles will come to Michigan after that. We'll see. The CMU women's basketball team beat Western yesterday, and the Michigan State women's basketball team beat Wisconsin 62-43. That's the 12th straight win for Susie Merchant's Spartans. And congratulations to them. John Edwards, the former vice presidential candidate, I think he was a presidential candidate for a while too, has reportedly asked his mistress to marry him, according to the National Enquirer. Now, his former wife, Elizabeth Edwards, just passed away last month after a battle with cancer, and she left her possessions to her 3 children and left him entirely out of the will, because, after all, he had cheated on her while he was running for office with, I think he was running around with one of his staffers. And Elizabeth Edwards, a very public and ugly situation. And now, just after she's passed away, he's asked somebody else to marry him. It's 42 minutes after the hour. Michael Patrick Shields, heard on radio stations all across the state of Michigan. We're talking about Mount Pleasant, Petoskey, Traverse City, Hastings, Lansing, Saginaw, Manistee, Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, Ludington, Muskegon, and Benton Harbor. And we're very glad to have you with us this morning on a Friday morning when big snow is coming to West Michigan and will reach all the way into mid-Michigan as well. We have this reports now of an out-of-control SUV that slammed into a Decatur Township house so hard that it knocked the house off of its foundation. There was a 34-year-old man, and guess what? He was driving too fast for the conditions, spun out of control, and bam, smashed into the house. Now, he initially gave the officers the runaround, trying to hide the fact that he was driving with an expired license and no insurance. No one was hurt, but the house was knocked a foot off of its foundation. Organizers of the Fifth Third River Run are changing things just a bit for this year's marathon. Instead of holding the event over Mother's Day weekend, they've pushed the date back to May 14th. Officials are expecting over 23,000 people to participate in what is the country's largest 25K race, as well as a 10K run and a 5K run and a 5K walk. More prize money up for grabs, too, and the staging areas are being expanded to make room for larger crowds. 38,000 people packed the streets just to watch the Fifth Third River Run in Grand Rapids, and so they have to accommodate that sort of popularity. Grand Valley State University's efforts to help Haitian earthquake victims reaching a new level. The school has created a scholarship for students from the stricken country, and the first fundraiser is scheduled next week on the anniversary of that massive earthquake that devastated Haiti. A Grand Rapids couple is facing federal charges for stealing checks from the mail and cashing them in. A grand jury indicted Harold and Peggy Oliver Thursday for mail theft and forgery charges. They were caught in November stealing outgoing mail, writing their names on the checks, and trying to cash them. They got about $8,000 for that and in a whole lot of trouble now. The Dow fell 26 points yesterday. The S&P was off 3 points, and the NASDAQ gained 8 points. Jobless numbers are due out today. The president will be in Maryland, and he will talk about them in a speech. Facebook looked like it's headed for an IPO, an initial public offering sometime next year. Would you want to be an investor in Facebook? One can only imagine what that stock will cost, but we will let you know. The price of gold fell, by the way, for a 5th straight day on Thursday, and they say that's a sign that the economy is recovering. Just as we hear that, Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner wants permission to raise the USA's debt ceiling. He sent a letter to House Speaker John Boehner, and he says the current debt limit of $14.29 trillion will be hit on March. And if we don't extend the limit, it could cause catastrophic damage to the economy. So we need the limit raised on the nation's credit card, according to the Treasury Secretary, Tim Geithner. We never let the birthday of a beautiful woman pass without taking note. Katie Couric from the CBS Evening News is 54 on this day. It's Michael Patrick Shields. We'll get you a chance to win a cruise and some money when we get back in 4 minutes. 10 minutes before the hour, Michael Patrick Shields heard all across the state of Michigan on a Firekeepers Casino Friday. I think I'm going to be there later today and then again on Monday and again next Thursday. It's a streak to heat things up at Firekeepers. They're giving away a cruise a day at Firekeepers where you can get your Vegas on. It's in Battle Creek, just where 69 crosses 94 right there, right off the exit. And we may need to heat things up, and I'll tell you why. The long-range forecaster from AccuWeather is saying that this could be the coldest January for the nation as a whole since 1985. We are looking at some extensive cold, and you can bet that the Midwest is going to be part of that. You know, they've had snow in the west, and it's been very bitter Arctic air on the northern plains, and there's been a dramatic cool down in the south. Anyone who went to Florida for Christmas knew that. But places like Chicago and Denver could have 1 or 2 days with high temperatures below zero. And, we're not too far from Chicago, so beware. It looks like we're going to have a very frigid January. So we just got to do what we can do to get through it. Just got to come up with little things that are fun, and like trips to the casino where you can pretend you're in Las Vegas at Firekeepers is certainly one of those. I'm all in for that. So if you ever want to go, you'll either see me there or we'll go down together. It's not that far. It's about 45 minutes from Lansing. It's about an hour, maybe an hour and 10 from Grand Rapids, and reachable from anywhere in the state, especially Jackson and even Mount Pleasant and so forth. I know people come from Detroit. My brother comes from Toledo to use the poker room there at Firekeepers Casino. Now, this is very two somewhat related stories coming out of the Vatican. God's mind was behind complex scientific theories like the Big Bang. And Christians, according to the Pope, should reject the idea that the universe came into being by accident. That's what Pope Benedict is saying. You know, sometimes when you talk to scientists, they say, wow, there was this Big Bang. Well, the Pope says the universe is not a result of chance, as some people would want us to believe. He says that, contemplating the universe, we're invited to read something profound into it. The wisdom of the Creator, the inexhaustible creativity of God. And he said that to 10,000 people in St. Peter's Basilica. The Pope's spoken before on evolution, but he's rarely delved back in time to talk about the Big Bang. And the scientists say that happened 13.7 billion years ago. And researchers in Geneva have been smashing protons together at nearly the speed of light to simulate the conditions they think that that's what brought the universe into primordial existence. Stars and planets and life on Earth and maybe elsewhere emerged. But some atheists say science can prove that God does not exist, but some scientific experiments were mind-limiting. They only arrive at a certain point, and they don't explain the ultimate sense of reality. So there you have it. The Pope is saying, hey, it's a beauty of the world, and it's a mystery, and its greatness and its rationality. We can only let ourselves be guided toward God, the creator of heaven and earth. So you have that, and now this is really shocking news to me. The Discovery Channel is teaming with the Vatican for an unprecedented new series hunting the deadliest catch of all, demons. The Exorcist Files is going to recreate stories of real-life hauntings and demonic possession based on cases investigated by the Catholic Church. To do this, they're going to have access into the Vatican's case files, as well as interviews with the organization's top exorcists. There are religious experts who are rarely seen on TV. And the Vatican is an extraordinarily hard place to get access to. But the Discovery Channel president Clark Bunting says we're not going to try to tell people what to think. They're just going to lay out the facts. Bunting says The investigators believe a demon can inhabit an inanimate object, like a home, or a person. And the network executive said he was skeptical when he was first meeting with the team, but after 3 hours of talks, they won him over. And here comes this show. He says it makes fascinating stories. And if the show's first season is successful, the network hopes to partner with the church for other series. It's The Exorcist Files, and it's one of 2 series coming to the network. And so Discovery Channel is going to recreate some of the secrets of the Catholic Church in the way of exorcisms. Now, if you've ever seen that movie, The Exorcist, you know, that's, to me, is one of the scariest movies that's ever been made. And I don't remember the name of it. I think it's called The Rite or something like that, or The Rituals, coming out in February with Anthony Hopkins. And he plays an exorcist in the Catholic Church, in the Vatican, in fact. And that looks really scary, too. So I remember when I was a kid, I was an altar boy at Our Lady of Mount Carmel Church in Wyandotte, Michigan. And I remember we opened up the cabinet and we were looking at the books that the priests had in there for the various rituals. And sure enough, we found the exorcism book that they're supposed to use if they try to perform an exorcism. But the church is usually very specific, very conservative about when a priest can perform an exorcism, because a lot of times performing the exorcism just confirms in people's minds that they're possessed when maybe they just might be a little off. Anyway, those books exist. I saw them when I was an altar boy, and now the Vatican is going to confirm it on the Discovery Channel. Spooky stuff this morning at 3 minutes before the hour. It's Michael Patrick Shields. The news and weather and sports and fun coming your way again next hour. Stay with me on this Friday morning. Good morning, Michigan. A very pleasant Friday to you. It's Michael Patrick Shields wearing my Stormy Cromer hat this morning, coming right out of the Upper Peninsula. It's an unmistakable sort of throwback kind of winter cap. Green and black plaid, Gary Austin, to keep my dome warm because, get this, we are looking at the coldest January since 1985, according to AccuWeather, the long-range forecaster there.
Yep.
It's been snowing in Vegas. It's been cold out west, the northern plains, and what happened in New York, as you know, frigid stuff. And so between January 10th and January 20th is when the core of the cold is going to be in place. Places like Chicago and Denver could have high temperatures below zero. Now, I presume that means we'll probably be in that ballpark because we're not that far from Chicago, but the high temperature below zero.
Well, and we are getting a true blast of winter weather today around here, and tomorrow as well. All over West Michigan especially, lake effect snow galore. In fact, in Kent, Barry, Muskegon, Newaygo, and Oceana counties, as much as a foot could come down. And for those due east of there, not as much, but still quite a bit, Michael Patrick. Better than a half foot could blanket the Jackson and Lansing areas. And through it all, more than an inch an hour could come down today.
We're looking at snow warnings in counties: Barry County, Kent County, Muskegon County, Newaygo County, and Oceana County. It's a lake effect snow warning through 1 a.m. on Saturday, and the experts are saying that as much as a foot of snow could hit there. 7 inches could fall north and east of those counties over to Jackson and Lansing, and forecasters are saying the snow on a very blustery day could fall at a rate of more than an inch per hour. That's a lot, I guess.
That's a it sure is. It sure is.
It's going to be tougher than it was on Winnie the Pooh, that's for sure, as you hear that in the background.
It feels that it will undoubtedly. It looks like a rather blustery day. Hum-dum-dum-diddy-dum.
Let's go to Dave in Dimondale, Gary. He's on the line at 888-900-9966. You keeping warm this morning, Dave?
My gosh, barely.
Yeah, it's not easy. What's heating things up for you?
Well, I had a comment about the reading of the Constitution yesterday on the House of Representatives floor.
Mm-hmm.
There were two small sections that were left out of the reading of that.
Really?
They decided that they might bother some people. And I really think people should really get the whole Constitution and read it. The one section they left out was when it refers to 3/5 of a person, which was a reference to the slaves during the time.
Mm-hmm.
They left that out because they thought that might bother people. The problem is that allowed for the 13th Amendment to the Constitution which repealed slavery, stopped slavery.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think the whole thing needs to be taken into context. The other section was Amendment number 18, which was the Prohibition Amendment, which stopped the sale and production of alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
They left that section out, but they did read the section, the 21st Amendment, that allowed alcohol to be made again. And I think the reason they didn't have these things put in there or read was because it really does show that the Constitution is amendable, but that it's not a living document, as some people would like you to believe, that it can just be, you can just kind of not listen to the whole thing, not use the whole thing because it's living. It needs to be amended if it's going to be changed, and they leave all the amendments in there each time that it's amended. Previous ones. And
I got to say I'm surprised by that, to tell you the truth, because it reminds me of, wasn't it that book 1984 by George Orwell where they had, what did they call it, Truth Speak or something like that, where they went back and amended history? And it sounds to me like in this the Constitution, there's history in it that's worth noting, and it might not be pleasant, but it's documented, and it seems shocking to me that they would simply edit it as they see fit.
That's correct, and I just wanted people to be aware of that because it's important. Our history is important. The little pocket edition of the Constitution Declaration of Independence that I carry is from the Heritage Foundation, and you can get it for free. Just contact the Heritage Foundation, and they'll send you out a copy. And it's kind of boring reading, but on the other thing, it is very important that we all understand what the Constitution is.
Well, every family has skeletons in their closet, and the United States has some skeletons, right? Is it fair to say? And to try to whitewash that, pardon the pun, and take it away from history is really spooky to me, because I think young people especially, they ought to know that we made some terrible mistakes in the past, but we were, there was bloodshed in our own country to correct some of those mistakes.
Well, and the genius of the Constitution, by leaving this stuff in there, is that people will understand how it came about and what the progressive was. I've been in organizations that sometimes you don't know how people made decisions, and this way it's all laid out for you right in the Constitution.
Well, you know what? I know that you listen closely to not only this program but other programs, and obviously you took issue yesterday. Once again, Dave from Divondale listening very closely to the details, and he did that yesterday, obviously, with the reading of the Constitution on the House floor, Gary Austin.
Very
it's impressive,
good. Well,
isn't it?
Yep, you betcha. Well, listen to these details, Michael Patrick. This will get your attention guaranteed. Did you know? Okay, let me ask you something. Before you were married, and let's say you're around a woman that you found interesting, and all of a sudden she started busted out crying. Would you sympathize with her, or would you be more apt to say, what's the deal here? How would you react?
I guess that depends on the situation. If you're in the workplace, we just talked to Susie Merchant the other day about this, the Michigan State women's basketball coach, and I asked her if she ever made a player cry. And she said, well, not on purpose. And, and she admitted it's different dealing with women than it is with men. She said that.
Well,
and maybe they're more emotional, maybe they're more apt to cry. But I can tell you for sure, in a business situation, I have seen women cry. And it doesn't seem very fair to me that when they are at the, the losing end of an argument maybe, or they're at a truth that they don't want to face, they resort to being the damsel in distress and crying, and everybody kind of backs off and says, oh, we didn't mean to upset you.
Right. Well, now let's take the flip side of that. Say you're with a woman and you're on a date, and for whatever reason she starts crying. As a guy, how do you react then?
Well, I would say, darling, what's wrong? Where does it hurt you, baby?
Well, you're different from most. You know why? Here's why. Listen to this. Researchers have actually, researchers, they study everything today.
Yes.
And here's the latest. Okay. Trying to unlock some of the secrets about why humans cry. Okay. These researchers have uncovered evidence that a woman's tears have a direct impact on men's libidos. Going into the study, the assumption had been, like you just so aptly pointed out, Michael Patrick, tears would evoke feelings of empathy or possibly sadness in men. But in the end, though, it's been learned after a lot of research that really what these tears did, turning on the old waterworks, was lower the testosterone levels by about 13% in men who were exposed to the scent of women's tears. So the smell of women's tears lowers the testosterone level.
They don't like weakness, huh? Man.
Yeah, that's it. The lead researcher says the science shows a woman's tears have evolved over time to be, quoting here, the chemical word for no, or not now. The study appears in its entirety online in the journal Science.
Now, what about the House Speaker now, John Boehner, the Republican from Ohio? He's been criticized, too, recently for getting emotional and crying during key important moments where he feels, you know, the significance, feels overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Does that turn women off, or do they say, oh, he's so sensitive, I just love him?
You know, that's a good point. Now, this research, though, studied men's reactions to women's tears. Good point. I mean, how would women react?
Women always say, oh, he's such a secure man that he's able to cry.
Yeah, his sensitive side.
Sensitive side.
No, that appeals to some women, though I've heard some women say, what a wimp.
Yeah.
Right? So I guess it
tough,
all depends on the woman.
George Herbert Walker Bush was famous for the waterworks, still is, when he gets into an emotional moment and talks about certain things. But nobody ever really criticized him for it. John Boehner, though, did get the criticism. In fact, Barbara Walters said that he was, what did she say? He had an emotional problem. Something like that, mental problem, because he cries at the drop of a hat.
Got another interesting study here.
Of course you do.
This is controversial. It seems to prove ESP, extrasensory perception, is real.
Yes.
Professors at Cornell did this, conducting 9 experiments that appeared to show that students could predict the future. The study was conducted for a decade and involved more than 1,000 kids. But many were saying this wasn't really happening, including some who say that, one of the non-believers saying, in a quote in the New York Times here, it's craziness, pure craziness, that anyone could assume that something like this could really happen. I can't believe a major journal is allowing this work in. So I guess it all depends on what position you have on this. ESP, extrasensory perception, is it real or not? I'd be curious to hear, perhaps, MPS, if some of our listeners have ever had an ESP-type experience they could share.
888-900-9966, 888-900-9966. I certainly have. I believe in ESP. Do you? We'll be back in a flash. Nikki Hale is calling to our world correspondent right here live in our Gillespie Group storefront studio on Fox 47 television, on radio stations all across the state of Michigan. The question was raised at the end of the newscast there about ESP. Do you believe that there's ESP?
Yes.
I do too.
Yes, I fully believe in it. There's several instances where I think to myself, I made a decision, and why did I make that decision? Based on what factor? And something told me to go somewhat way with the decision I made. And I think, yes, something in us tells us, not necessarily facts, just a feeling.
Yeah, and how many times do you, let's say you pick up the phone to ring a friend and they say, I was just thinking of you.
Yes.
Or I was just about to call you myself.
Yeah. Were your ears burning? I was talking about you.
Yeah, or even sometimes you call at the same time.
Yes, absolutely.
And like you just said, when Earl Spencer is going to be speaking at the Grand Rapids Economic Club on Monday, I said, we ought to go and see that, and we ought to go see the Princess Diana exhibit. And you said, Troy and I were just talking about that.
Exactly, and we definitely were.
Is that a coincidence, or is it? I prefer to believe that there's some kind of cosmic connections.
Yeah, I just think that there's something else. We know that we don't fully utilize the human brain. We know you only use a very small percentage of the capacity that it actually has. So I think it has to do with something that we don't use. It's developed. It can be developed. I think I fully believe that. So
it's going to be spooky as we go forward. As the devices that we use are getting smaller and smaller, and they're voice actuated sometimes. And so when this gets small enough to just get implanted in your head behind your ear, you and I will be able to sit here and talk without our mouths moving, like those sci-fi movies, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm a big fan of that.
I'll be sending you mental text messages. That'll be really, I'm glad I'm not going to be here for that.
How do I not accept, though? What if I didn't want to talk to somebody?
Oh, that would be. See, the Consumer Electronics Show is going on in Las Vegas this week.
We
and
should go check that out and find out how that works.
Vegas would be great. We're going to go virtually, I guess, to Las Vegas coming up shortly with some of the latest gadgets live from Las Vegas with David Gregg. He is a senior editor of BehindTheBuy.com. He's a product reporter, so he's going to be up early, and we'll be talking to him shortly. One of the gadgets that's been very popular over the years is the Tiger Woods PGA Tour video game, and it's in for some changes this year.
Yes, even though they didn't drop their sponsorship of Tiger Woods, they are actually taking his face off the cover of the game. I think there is still one version that will have him on the front cover, but they're replacing it with sort of a shot of a golf course. It's very plain. It does still say Tiger Woods at the bottom, but is it Rory McIlroy?
Yeah.
Is becoming the superstar now.
He's the new Tiger.
Yes.
From Northern Ireland.
So I don't know if they're looking at how the game of golf is evolving, and since Tiger didn't do so well after his scandal, whether they're trying to say, okay, we'll still keep Tiger Woods there. It's still, very popular, but moving towards somebody who may become even more popular. So
yeah, and one of the aspects of the game that's almost really surprising to a lot of people is that you get a number of courses you can choose to play, and they're adding Augusta National this year.
that should be fun.
I never thought in my wildest dreams Augusta National would allow itself to be on video game because it's so exclusive and so private.
But, financially, I'm sure they gain from that, and they probably looked at the numbers and figured it's well worth it.
They looked at the numbers, they figured it's well worth it, and they're going to be giving the profits that they realize from the game to the Masters Foundation, which is a charitable effort there.
So that's fantastic, I think. I don't know if you play. I play it on the Wii. I have a
Yeah.
2007 version of the Tiger Woods golf, and that's what I play my best game, because on the golf course I'm not very good. So go play it on the Wii, and I feel good about myself.
Yeah, then you go to the real course, and either you've got all that confidence built up, or it's come smashing down.
Yeah, so
in
you
reality.
think, geez, it's just a video game.
They're releasing it right around Masters time, too, in late March, so I would imagine that's going to be a huge story.
Yeah.
And for all those people who dream of playing Augusta National, who never will, because it's almost impossible to get on the course. It's only open half the year, and you have to play with a member. This will be your way to do it.
Right, there you
have
go.
it. So this, I've been wondering when Pierce Morgan is going to start his replacement for Larry King. There was a bit of a gap there through the holidays.
Yeah, and it was very interesting. I just saw an interview with him this week, actually, and he said he is so sick and tired of all the promotion on CNN telling them how fierce he's going to be and how he's going to kill all these interviews. He's like, I just want to get it done. So he's already shot his interview with Oprah, and one thing I've heard about him is he is not going to be as live as Larry King was. He actually prefers to do a lot of taped stuff. And now in the UK, he is known as a very good interviewer, but over here, he's known as the America's Got Talent judge. So it's going to be interesting to see how the American public takes him seriously or not, because it's not the face that he has over in the UK.
So he might not be taking callers like Larry King did, obviously.
He
if
will
the things
have a
are on
live
tape.
portion, but I think a lot of his celebrities and the bigger stars, he's probably going to go and do a tape version and make it.
This is Tiger Woods, by the way, to go back to that, Golf Digest has dropped him now after 13 years, just by coincidence. Have you got your royal wedding invitation yet?
I haven't. It must have gotten lost in the mail. I don't know what's going on.
Well, if it doesn't arrive, at least you know where to go to catch a glimpse, right?
Right, exactly. They published the route, which I thought was very interesting.
Yeah, you would think they would keep that a secret for security reasons.
Yes,
But it's a parade route, essentially, right? The whole town turns out, doesn't it?
Exactly, and it's a route that they use all the time actually
Oh.
because it's secure. Scotland Yard know it very well. They're able to cover it pretty well. So the interesting choice though for Kate Middleton was she chose to actually go in a car, whereas Diana was in a glass-covered.
Yeah. That's too bad. That
Yes.
makes quite a pretty picture.
They will be in the carriage after the ceremony. So after the wedding is done, they're going back to the palace for the reception by the Queen. They'll be in the carriage at that point. So you'll still get a nice glimpse and some nice pictures there. But it's going to be very, 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 very popular, I think.
Did you like the movie The King's Speech? Have you seen it yet?
I told you I was going on Wednesday.
You didn't go?
And no, my
Too
girlfriend
busy.
who was going with me, who is single, love you, Laura.
Love you too.
Got a date on Wednesday, and so
Oh.
I was like, "Yay! Go out and have fun." And
Couldn't you
so,
go with them on the date and see The King's Speech?
No, wasn't appropriate. So I'm going with her on Saturday.
Ron Van Timmeren from Celebration Cinemas has seen The King's Speech, as have I. I thought it was terrific. What do you think, Ron Van Timmeren?
Love that movie, Michael Patrick, and that is a surefire Oscar nominee for Best Picture.
We haven't talked since the new year, but I think I saw 8 movies over the Christmas break. I saw just about everything that I wanted to see, and I put the Black Swan as number 1.
Really?
I put The King's Speech as number 2, and then I put True Grit as number 3. What do you make of that?
That's an awesome list, and the only thing I would object to is I thought True Grit was the best picture of that bunch. But all three of them, awesome movies, and they're holding over into January, probably going to carry the season for us.
I thought that James Nicholson, James Brooks picture was charming enough, but it fell a little flat. What do you think of that one?
Yeah, How Do You Know?
Yeah.
Really never found an audience already out of the top 10. Only about $30 million, and that doesn't even make payroll for that movie. So very disappointing. How Do You Know?
Yeah, and what's the one that I saw? Oh, I finally saw the Angelina Jolie and Johnny Depp picture, and I thought the scenery was beautiful, but the writing was really flat.
Yeah, and the critics all agree with you, Michael Patrick. Pretty to look at, not much of a story. Big star power, of course, but even that, once again, a high-priced cast did not guarantee them success. So I think the biggest box office winner this week or the holiday season was The Little Fockers. What did you think of that?
Not much. I think it's a tired act, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I think this is the third and final act. I think you're right, although they're going to make a couple $100 million on it, so you never know.
Yeah, I guess so. But that King's Speech you'll like, Nikki, because it has to do with the radio business in one hand, and there's a lot of real history mixed in there.
Yeah,
you get
I've
to
heard
see
great
Winston
reviews.
Churchill, and
I can't wait. I'm upset at my friend for ditching me, but I'm happy for her that she got a date. So
yeah. And Black Swan, I've never seen anything like it, Ron Van Timmeren. It just, to me, was a masterpiece. The way it had this crescendo at the end with the music and the special effects and the story, it was fantastic.
Well, you're kind of a bizarre, twisted guy, aren't you, liking that kind of thing?
You're so involved in it, and someone would say, wait a minute, you went to see a movie about ballet? It's not really about ballet. Ballet is in it, but that's not the main thrust of the story.
Yeah, exactly. Think of The Wrestler. Darren Aronofsky did that movie as well. This is kind of a companion piece behind the scenes, inside the head of the performers. That was really more character-driven than what the surface story was.
I see they're bringing back out the Facebook movie, and the other one I saw, The Fighter, I loved it until the end, which I kept saying to myself, is that all there is?
Yeah, I know what you mean. The story lives on because it's true, but in great performances there. The two wide releases this week, Michael Patrick, Country Strong with Gwyneth Paltrow and Tim McGraw, and Season of the Witch with Nicolas Cage.
All right, there you have it. Ron Van Timmeren.
See the movies.
See you at the movies, and Nikki Hale. I guess we'll see you at the movies,
Happy
too.
New Year.
Happy New Year, too, to you. She's our world correspondent from right here in Michigan. 35 after the hour. Well, we were discussing earlier whether ESP is real. Nikki Hale says yes. I say yes. What does Kathy say? She's ringing in at 888-900-9966. Good morning to you.
Good morning, my favorite radio personality.
Thank you. I just knew you would call. You know how I knew?
Why?
ESP.
All right. Here's what my perception is of ESP. It's not extrasensory. It's extraordinary spiritual perception.
Oh, so if you open yourself, open your heart.
Yeah, it's not your brain. It's your spirit.
Let it come in. All right, I'll buy that. I mean, I don't think these things can all be coincidences, do you?
No, absolutely not. There is something that goes beyond the brain matter.
Can you tell me?
Into the heart.
And ESP is different than reading the future, I think. ESP,
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's connecting with someone or something in the moment, as opposed to telling me who's going to win the playoff game this weekend.
No,
between
you're not getting that kind of information, baby.
Okay, bundle up. We got a cold, snowy weekend ahead of us. Kathy is in Lansing at 888-900-9966. The New Orleans Saints at 11-5 are taking on the Seattle Seahawks. The first team ever to go into the playoffs with a losing record. They're 7-9, and believe it or not, because of the way it all shakes out, they get a home game. So the defending Super Bowl champs have to go play a losing team in Seattle, and that is 4:30 on Saturday. The late game on Saturday is the New York Jets at 11-5 going to play the Indianapolis Colts. They're 10-6. That game is in Indy at 8 o'clock on NBC. And then on Sunday, they start the games at the more traditional time. 1 o'clock, the Baltimore Ravens at the Kansas City Chiefs. Ravens are favored by 3 in that game. They're 12-4, and the Chiefs are 10-6. And Jim Nantz has that game on CBS. And then the 4:30 game, Green Bay Packers are going to Philadelphia Eagles. Michael Vick's been pretty well busted up, and the Packers won their way in last week against the Chicago Bears. So that'll be a heck of a showdown, too. And let's see, the Eagles are favored by 3. They're at home. So that is your wild card lineup for this weekend. David Gregg is with us live from Las Vegas, nationally recognized product reporter and senior editor of BehindTheBuy.com. He's at the world-famous Consumer Electronics Show, and he's been poking around and checking out all of the new interesting gadgets. That's what happens at that show. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Michael.
Did you just stay up all night in Vegas for the interview?
You know, I was just going to say, I come out for the week, and I average 3 hours of sleep a night. I live on the East Coast, so factor the time change in, so I really kind of don't get any sleep.
Yeah, they say that that New York's the city that never sleeps, but Las Vegas certainly doesn't either.
That's a fact, for sure.
Well, what has dazzled you at this Consumer Electronics Show?
Probably the biggest category would be televisions this year. Finally, they have integrated totally wireless technology into TVs, whereby the TV has actually become a full-blown computer. So not only do you have the ability to stream content directly to the television wirelessly, but you have web browsers built into your TV. And what that means to your listeners is that you don't have to pop your laptop up and put it on your lap. You just basically take your remote with you, and you'll use that to navigate the Internet and be able to and surf the net.
I'll be darned. So it was fascinating when we found we could watch television on our computer, and now we can work our computer on our television.
And that is correct. And these televisions are actually going to start shipping. I have an example sitting right in front of me because I'm doing a myriad of television interviews, too.
Yep.
It's from Panasonic. It actually is best in show. This thing not only is wireless, but it also allows you to stream video-on-demand content, as I said, Netflix, and it has a great 2D picture, but also 3D, and the glasses have gotten much smaller, and they're much more affordable. 50-inch plasma, full 3D HD for under $2,200.
How realistic is the 3D? In the movies, it's astonishing. But what about coming off the TV?
Astonishing picture coming off the TV, too, just based on the fact that so many studios are going back into the mixing room, back into the sweetening room, and taking old classics such as George Lucas just did and turning them into 3D spectacular. So now you can actually watch the original Star Wars, which is coming out shortly, in full 3D. The first release will be, of course, in theaters, but it'll be coming to your TV soon.
So
a whole bunch of other things here, too, if you want to talk about those besides TV.
Please. Yes, please. We have a minute and a half.
Okay, digital photography. 2 things I found on the floor, obviously kind of synonymous with photography, is Kodak Corporation. We found 2 different things. A new digital camera, pardon me, from their Easy Share line. It's called the Touch Camera. And this camera is built to integrate into social networking sites such as Facebook and Twitter. Of course, there's YouTube out there, which isn't for social networking, but videos. So you take your picture, you push a share button that's on the back of that camera, automatically sends your pictures to your favorite social networking sites, your videos to your favorite video sharing sites, and no longer are your pictures sequestered inside your camera, but they're immediately shared for all to see and print out immediately. There's a printer that also I found, under $100, least expensive ink, and that's always a major issue. The ink cartridge cost on this printer, number one, it's got double the ink in the cartridges, but the black cartridge, $9, the color cartridge under $15, and as I said, twice the average ink. Therefore, it's going to be saving the consumer a lot in the long run.
Wow, that a normal cartridge is about $60, isn't it?
It depends on the make and the model, but at least normally double the price I just quoted. And then finally, 2 other things. Dish Network found something really cool in their booth. They are really changing the game up. They have a combination service with their DVR and Sling box, and actually Dish owns Sling, whereby you will be able to access all of your video tech devices anywhere you are in the world from your smartphone. So if there's your favorite favorite team is playing, you can actually watch it on your smartphone anywhere in the world because it allows you to access your equipment from home through your Sling box on your smartphone.
We are
which is incredible.
We're becoming television directors, all of us, in our own home or wherever we are in the world. Thank you very much. For more details, of course, you can go to BehindTheBuy.com for David Gregg from the Consumer Electronics Show. Yeah, we're trying to keep warm here this morning because we're looking at some cold temperatures and some snow. So I'm in my Stormy Cromer hat is what it's called, and it comes from the Upper Peninsula. They produce these there, and you can order them online. The hat looks like it's 60 years old. Old school, right, with the black and green checks, but it keeps you warm, and it's kind of stylish in an Upper Peninsula sort of way. So it's Stormy Cromer is what it's called. And I ordered it online a year ago after I saw somebody wearing it at a CMU football game, and I said, wow. And if you want the really traditional version, you get the red and black. But I went for the green and black because of the Irish connection. And we're going to need it to keep cold, and I bet to keep warm, and I bet that there are a lot of kids, including perhaps the Gillespie kids, who are a little ticked off that the snowstorm is coming today and tonight as we're going into a weekend. I mean, if they were going to have a snowstorm, why not have it on a Tuesday so you could get, Tuesday or Wednesday off of school? What good is having a big snowstorm on the weekend when you're not going to school anyway? But it's happening. In fact, it's going to start in West Michigan, obviously, and then move its way toward us. Lake effect snow is pounding Barry, Kent, Muskegon, Newaygo, and Oceana counties. There's a lake effect snow warning through 1 a.m. on Saturday. A foot of snow could hit those counties. And we're going to get 7 inches probably here in Jackson and in Lansing. And, the other parts of the state are in for it, too. So, you try your luck, and that's how it's going to happen. It's going to be a very cold month, too. We could have temperatures in the highs below zero, and that's between January 10th and 20th. So there's still hope that we'll have some school closings with temperatures that cold, so you can just put your Stormy Cromer hat on and stay home from school. It's 8 minutes now before the hour. Michael Patrick Shields. I'll give you the rest of the sports now. We see the... Now, this is not official, but there are reports that Michigan is still hoping to maybe get Jim Harbaugh, San Diego State's Brady Hoke, LSU's Les Miles. He plays tonight, by the way, LSU versus Texas A&M in the Cotton Bowl. TCU's Gary Patterson and Utah's Kyle Whittingham and Boise State's Chris Peterson could be in the mix for the Michigan coaching job. Supposedly, the Wolverines are willing to offer $5 million a year to a coach. And I heard that Miami Dolphins offered $8 million a year to Jim Harbaugh, and he said no. So that's some of the gossip that I've heard. The GoDaddy.com Bowl was last night. Miami of Ohio wins that game in Alabama. Women's basketball, CMU beats Western. MSU beats Wisconsin 62-43. That's 12 straight wins for Susie Merchant Spartans. Congratulations to them. The Red Wings had the night off. The Pistons are off until... I guess Saturday. They got the 76ers coming into the Palace, and the Wings are going to play tonight in Calgary. And so we'll have reports on that. It looks like Tom Gores is going to buy the Pistons. He's a Michigan State grad and a billionaire financier from Beverly Hills, California. He is now the front runner, and that could happen as early as next week, as we understand it. The PGA Tour was back in action yesterday. The season-opening Tournament of Champions out in Maui, and Jonathan Bird and Carl Peterson are leading that at 7 under par, 66 at the Hyundai Tournament of Champions. I wonder if Cheryl Freeborough is watching that event. I would think so. I am driving a 2010 Saturn Vue from Hyundai of Lansing from Cheryl Freeborough's company, and believe it or not, it's right out in front here of our Gillespie Group storefront studio. It's like a small SUV with 8,500 miles on it. It's available right now at Hyundai of Lansing for only $18,495, and it feels like brand new. So if you want it from anywhere in the state, they'll get it to you. It's $18,500, and it's a 2010. It's like a brand new car for way lower than the Blue Book value, to be sure. Michelle Gilbert is back with us on the other end of our line. The Consumer Electronics Show is going on in Las Vegas, and I guess TVs are all the rage, but it's hard to keep up, too, with the technology that the telephones, which is really an old-fashioned name anymore, isn't it, are throwing at us. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
How can we possibly keep up with this 4G, 3G, all this technology, Droid, you name it? I mean, what do we need to know?
Well, here's what news we made yesterday. We introduced, or gave, I should say, a sneak peek at the next suite of 4G phones that will be available from Verizon Wireless by the middle of the year. It's a combination of some smartphones, a couple of tablets, a couple of mobile hotspots that let you connect several devices to one and take advantage of our network on more than one device, and a couple of notebooks. All that will work at even faster speeds than we have today.
Sometimes it seems like the phone does everything but make phone calls anymore. But what does 4G mean? That sounds like a naive question, but what does that mean?
Oh, it's not a naive question at all. No, so 4G really stands for the fourth generation of wireless technology.
Oh, okay.
And what it allows is it allows faster speeds. So, for example, you can now upload files, big files, where before you would have to walk away from your computer, go get some coffee, maybe do a couple errands perhaps, depending on how big the file was, and come back. Jeez. Today, what it does is it reduces the speeds that it takes to do that by tenfold.
Is there a web address we can examine all of this?
Absolutely. www.verizonwireless.com /CES.
For Consumer Electronics Show.
On our website.
Well, have fun in Las Vegas. Michelle Gilbert there at the Consumer Electronics Show. Television viewers, time to say goodbye for this week, but radio listeners, stay right where you are. There's another hour coming with Michael Patrick Shields.
Come and play. Bye now.